Go for Side Effects is sponsored by Wild Branch Products. Wild Branch is a truly pure cannabis oil. They make CBD containing 0.00% THC and no carrier oils. Use Wild Branch oils and salves to calm, cool, and soothe your body, leaving you pain-free. I can tell you, using this product, I was able to go to Santa's Wonderland with my family. I put on the salve, I used the oils, I was able to walk for hours. I believe in this product 100%. Use promo code GWI podcast for 15% off. Use promo code GWI podcast for 15% off. Click the link below. Thank you. Welcome to Go For Side Effects. I'm your host, Kevin Simon. I have my co-host, John, and today we're talking with Australian Navy man, Shaun Simmonds. How you doing, Shaun?
Not too bad. Yourself?
No, I'm doing good. Man, it is good to have another Navy guy, even if from a different country. It's nice to have another Navy guy instead of Army and Marines in here.
Yeah, I feel for you. Yeah.
See if you can plug it in the back somewhere.
Hey, Shaun, why don't you go ahead and give everybody a description of when you were in and what type of ship you were on and what you did in the Navy?
Oh, okay. History lessons. I joined the Navy on the 5th of February, 1990 and was deployed to the Gulf in November that year, straight out of recruit school. I was on the HMAS Brisbane, which was a guided missile destroyer, an American Charles F. Adams class modified. And we spent approximately 8 months in the Gulf.
Wow. Now, what exactly did you do on your ship?
I was a quartermaster gunner. So everything from 9mm pistols to 5-inch naval artillery, we pulled it apart, maintained it, operated it, all that good stuff.
Oh, that's pretty badass.
So wait a second. You guys may be shot at something. That's something, Kevin, I know we don't want to get in how you joined the Navy and wanted to stay away from all that gun stuff.
Yeah, that's definitely, that's one of the reasons I didn't be a Marine or Army, guys, because I didn't want to get shot at.
Heaven forbid in the military, get shot at.
Yeah,
what the bloody hell?
All right, Shaun, let's get into, how long were you over there for in Desert Storm?
Well, the Australian Navy sent 3 ships initially to help with boarding exercises and taking over merchant ships and stuff like that. And then we relieved them about 4 weeks before the shit hit the fan. And we were mainly on carrier battle group duty, playing guard or point defense, that sort of thing.
Now, when y'all did underway replenishments, did y'all happen to do that with the United States Navy, or did y'all have your own? Where we send cargo over? Well, I wonder if we lost him.
Might have lost him. Technical difficulties. Hey, man, whenever this are you there? It happens.
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Sorry, I seem to have dropped out there for a second.
It's okay. Did y'all do underway replenishments while y'all were out there?
Oh, yeah, just a tad. Just a few.
Did you do them with the United States Navy?
Yes, we sure did.
Yeah.
We also had one of our own tankers over there as well. But yes, lots and lots of replenishments at sea.
Yeah, I was on the USS San Jose, auxiliary free store ship. So I probably unrepped y'all while y'all were out there. And so
more than likely, yes, we were with. We swung in between 2 carrier battle groups, the Ranger and the Midway.
Yeah, and we were mainly with the Ranger.
Oh, we more than likely razzed at some point, yes.
So let's get into like, do you keep in touch with a lot of your shipmates and people who were over there during Desert Storm?
I have some contact with some of them, mainly via Facebook, but I didn't keep up with them for years. We're not a very nostalgic mob in Australia.
So what did y'all like? Are y'all exhibiting problems like we are here, neuropathy, digestive system problems, and stuff like that?
Yeah, as you know, Gulf War syndrome has a lot of different symptoms, and everyone's different. Some of the guys have anything from cancers to blood disorders, brain problems. For my own case, I have, I'm not sure what you call it, polyessential nervous disorder of some sort. We're all completely undiagnosed over here because our government refuses to acknowledge it exists.
So you guys,
sorry,
you guys have the same problem as we do then, getting them to acknowledge the fact what we were exposed to.
Oh yes, yeah, it's all on their heads. It's PTSD.
So what were some of the first things? Were you still in theater, Shaun, when you started noticing maybe things weren't right, or at what point did you notice something was going on?
It was probably a couple of months after we got home, actually, and it wasn't anything drastic for me personally. It was really subtle. I started gaining weight, despite how much I worked out. I had like a hot, sweaty day. You get an itch in the small of your back. You just can't quite reach, and it drives you nuts. I was getting that feeling everywhere, over my entire body, and I've had that ever since. So if I don't watch myself, I scratch myself bloody.
Really?
Completely. Yeah, it's maddening. I've more or less trained myself to ignore it. But when I'm sleeping, I can scratch the hell out of myself. Well, that's the major one for me. It's a minor thing, but it drives you nuts.
Well, the biggest, I think one of the biggest things, sorry, John, one of the biggest things that I'm curious about, do y'all have a VA like the United States does?
We do have a Department of Veterans Affairs, yes. Their main concern is denying claims rather than approving them.
Sounds like ours.
So, I was kind of anxious to talk with you, Shaun. That was going to be one of my first questions, like Kevin just mentioned. If your system was something similar to ours, so and of course they deny everything. It sounds like ours. Now I think it's kind of interesting. You said itching. Now, Kevin, you probably have talked to somebody that's had that. I personally haven't experienced that, but prickly heat, I had that when I was in basic training because of the extreme heat. And that does, Shaun, that definitely drives. I don't know how you learn to live with something like that, but I guess it's
amazing what you can become used to.
Yeah, I guess, my abdominal pain and whatnot gets more intense on some days than others, depending. I was going to say depending on what I eat, but that's not a fair statement. It just kind of happens. But yeah, so did you, when you realized that you had this issue, did you have the wherewithal at that given point in your young life that, hey, there's something going on here, and went straight to the VA, or how did you work through that?
Yeah, no. Well, when I deployed to the Gulf, I was 17 and a half.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I was only 18, of course, when we got home again. And the gaining weight issue, I just thought, too much pizza, too much piss, not enough workout, work harder, son. I left the Navy mid-95, and I just made a point of taking very strenuous jobs, as physical as possible. But it became apparent after about 10 years that I was still slowly gaining weight, that something was going on. So I went and saw doctors and your local GP, your specialists, and I got bounced around back and forward, confused looks on people's faces. It wasn't related to service. No doctor could pick up their book and go, you have this. So no one knew what was going on. So the best I got told was it was all in my head.
Now, see,
Yeah.
I find that interesting because earlier you were talking about that you have sensory poly. That's what I have. I have sensory polyneuropathy, and there's all types of sensory poly. I know there's fibromyalgia, but do they test y'all for Gulf War illnesses?
No, it's not a recognized syndrome. As I said, you can't go to a doctor with a specific set of symptoms and then go, Gulf War syndrome, you come under this, because it's not in the book.
Wow.
So they may recognize individual symptoms, but they won't connect them with the Gulf War. Any mention of the Gulf War and its PTSD.
Now, Kevin, I guess maybe I know I have this, we all struggle with it, at least most of us, I think, struggle with the memory issue. Now, the Gulf War illness, I mean, us U.S. veterans, I mean, they know about it, but do they specifically say Gulf War related, or do most people it's just, what's the term, service connected?
Well, see, the way it works with us in the United States, Shaun, is we literally, you fill out a burn pit for the burn pits, then you also fill one out for the Gulf War. And then what they do is they bring you in, like they brought me in 1995, and they did an exam on me. And so what they ended up doing is you go up, and it's like one of their top doctors, and they sit down and they ask you a bunch of questions. Where were you at in the theater? And then they started saying, okay, well, how much smoke did you see? How much, burn pits were you around? When you're at these ports, were there any, smog? And I'm like, well, shit, the only thing I can remember is the freaking oil well fires.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they want you to remember the stupidest details like anyone could.
Right. And see, and this is where I think all of our governments are wrong, is they know it was there. They have it documented. I mean, how the Australian or even Europe, France, or any of them who were over Belgium, why can't they go off to the United States? Makes no damn sense to me whatsoever.
Because it's quite deliberate. They don't want to acknowledge it happened, because then they might have to pay out some money, and they'd rather die than do that. In fact, what they want to do is, in the track record of the Australian Veterans Affairs, is they quite literally want you to die.
Oh, yeah.
We had a situation back in the 60s where one of our destroyers got rammed and sunk by one of our aircraft carriers, and a whole bunch of guys died. And the survivors claimed compensation and all the rest of the stuff you can imagine. They literally stonewalled them for 30 years until 98% of them were dead, and then they gave the couple that were left a few $1,000s. That's how our DVA functions.
Sounds like Vietnam.
It's cheaper to pay for a headstone than for medical treatment.
Oh, that's an really, you know what? I haven't heard it phrased like that, but that's sadly true, I think. Hadn't heard it phrased like that, but Shaun, I got to agree with you. I think that's a fair statement.
But our Australian DVA has a track record of this going back to World War I. How they treat vets here is just absolutely freaking disgusting. And it's more impressive to me, to the guys I served with, that we all knew this before we joined, and they all volunteered anyway.
Well, see,
that always gets me,
And with us here, I mean, this is like, I had a guy from France send me a message, and he was saying, I don't know how you don't have a black Suburban following you with a sniper rifle out of it. Because, I mean, this is the only way it gets discussed. I mean, people don't realize this wasn't just the United States. This was, it was pretty much a NATO mission. I mean, even the Russian ships were out there. And anybody tells me they weren't, I'll tell them they're full of shit, because I saw plenty
sure
of
were.
them. Yeah.
Damn straight.
And I know Russia's not a part of NATO, but they were out there. They were right alongside of us. And I'd be curious to see what them Gulf War vets were dealing with and how they're treated. But it sounds like that European countries, Australia, Europe, and all them, they don't it's like the United States recognizes it at least more than what y'all's do.
Does it matter, Shaun? Does it vary around the country, or is it everybody that gets treated the same? Because here in the United States, it's been discussed on the show before, depending on which VA you utilize is, as sadly, depends a lot on how you're treated or how you're, how they move forward with you. And of course, obviously depends on your own self advocation. If you advocate harder and you push harder, you're going to get results. May not always be the results you want. But so does it vary around your country, or is it pretty much steadfast, same across the board?
Yeah, Australia has a single system, a federal Department of Veterans Affairs. We don't have VA hospitals or anything like that.
Oh,
We just have the Department of Veterans Affairs, and you got to go through them for everything. You can get an advocate through our Return Services League, which is a bit like your is it the Legion of Honor or whatever you call it?
American
Your
Legion.
Veterans group.
Yeah,
American Legion. Yeah.
Yeah. So the RSL is our version of that, and they provide advocates, people who know all the intricacies of the red tape and all the government bullshit, to help you get a claim through the DVA.
Yeah, but how does y'all's rating system work?
Rating system?
Yeah, like ours is 10%, 20%, 30, 40, 50, 60, all the way up to 100. Well,
yeah. Okay.
That
depends on your level of incapacitation.
Okay.
So if you're blind, deaf, missing both arms and legs, and have a mortal condition, which you're going to die in a few years, you'd be rated 100%. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be approved. You have to prove that happened due to service.
Wow.
So some guy's got a bad back, prove that happened in service. Where is it noted in your medical records from the time? If your medical records don't mysteriously disappear like mine did and thousands of other guys did, there was a misfiling and all the records disappeared.
Huh. So I'm kind of curious, Shaun. So I know I asked you earlier about when you started kind of discovering things weren't maybe quite right with yourself. Was there, in this curiosity, as a lot of my questions are, what, as you're on board ship, because I'm an Army guy, I can honestly, I don't think this may be a sad statement. I don't think I've ever seen a Navy ship in person. I'm about as middle of the United States as you can get here in Iowa. So I know Kevin's probably laughing.
I am. I'm laughing
here. But I mean, did your other fellow men and women on board, have you ever discussed, man, I remember when this happened, and maybe now you started feeling something different. Now you had explained that it was a ways later in life what did you say? A couple of weeks or months later that you were starting to feel something different. Is that a fair statement across the board with people on your ship?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same.
Time?
Yeah, it's pretty much that. It varies from person to person, of course, and I don't have a perfect recollection, as you can imagine. I would say I started noticing something was going on about 3 months after we got back. And then as time progressed, things just steadily got worse and new things popped up. To the point where I'm pretty much buggered now. I've had to stop working. I'm pretty much medically retired. I'm on government benefits because I'm a full-time carer for my wife, who has other issues herself.
Wow.
So I'm at the point now where I can't stand up for more than about half an hour, or I fall over. I can't walk more than about 100 meters, or again, I get leg cramps and I fall over. I'm physically wrecked. And there's nothing in my history that would explain me being so physically wrecked. It's just gotten slowly gotten worse and worse over time. And now I don't want to go into sympathy stuff, but I now have a large host of medical issues, which all come from nowhere. And a lot of them are the same as other guys have, fibromyalgia, memory issues, physical issues. It's all the same sort of stuff.
Yeah,
so I know and you know where it comes from, but try convincing a doctor of that. They just don't understand.
Right. Right. And that's what it seems like with most of us. By the way, I'm having camera problems over here, but is the guys that it doesn't matter where you work. Cause I talked to a guy that was in Europe and man, I mean, he has it worse than even in Australia. I mean, that guy was literally saying that there were like, they rated at like 5.5%, 7.25%. And it could be some major stuff.
Really, that low?
Yes.
I didn't know that until just that's beyond ridiculous. I had not heard that. Huh.
So how do y'all get y'all's information, Shaun? Y'all get it from Americans like us that are either podcasting or putting it out on Facebook and stuff? How do y'all get your information?
Yes, for the most part, most of the information we get is from the States, from guys like you. There's some coming out of the UK. I'm not aware of any from any other country, but that's probably just because I haven't found it. I'm not a tech head. I don't know how to search for stuff. In Australia, there was a bit of a movement about a decade ago. A couple of the guys trying to fight the DVA, and then it all went quiet, and we never heard from them again. Even their online presence disappeared. So either they just got sick and tired of smashing their head against the cement wall and just stopped, or they were shut down. But either way, there's very little information about Gulf War syndrome in Australia. In fact, the war itself is pretty much forgotten.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's I'm telling you, the Gulf War is the forgotten war. And that's the one thing I've been telling everybody. Even though it was a short war, I mean, really, truly, it may have been a short war, but we were out there a long time. She has spent almost all 4 years out there.
Wow, that's a long deployment.
Yeah, I mean, I would be out there for 9 months. We got extended. We went back in, went back out there again, and then we had to go over to the Philippines. Then we got shipped off to. Oh, by the way, I've been to Australia, by the way, but we're going to talk that after a while. But but. What amazes me is the first group of guys that went out there, when they went back the second time, we were like, oh, shit. The new guys were like, oh, I'm excited about this. I'm like, what are you excited about? And it was more hazier than it was the first time I was out there.
And wasn't that true? You remember that when you first got there, the beautiful sunsets and clear skies, and it was gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then by the time you left, it was like living in a quarry.
So this must be a Navy thing about glorious sunsets and all that, because when you're on the freaking ground, I didn't see shit that was glorious. It was a whole lot of sand.
See, that's why you should sign up for the Grey Funnel Line.
The what?
The what?
The Grey Funnel Line. Perfect cruises, see the world, glorious sunsets.
Oh yeah, the Navy style, man. And the Milky Way. You would not believe. Being
Damn
out
straight.
at sea, looking up and seeing the Milky Way with all the stars and about 2 million satellites, it looks like that's up there. But it was gorgeous.
Isn't it mind-blowing?
It is mind-blowing. And then you get to the Gulf and you can't see any of that shit.
It's all a big haze, right?
It's like living in a permanent friggin' dust storm. That's right.
Right.
Now when you're going to talk a dust storm, I know when we kind of had, in military, I don't know, maybe it goes depending on whether you're Army, Marines, or whatever. When you buddy up with somebody and, you kind of guys, maybe go out on a mission together. It's your battle buddy if you're, just two of you or whatever. But you talk about a freaking dust storm. Every time we decide to do laundry, I guarantee you, there would be, here comes a freaking sandstorm. I'm like, stop. No, because we'd have our, of course we're engineers. So we had a lot of heavy junk and we'd have a tent put up and you could just see that damn thing. It was almost simultaneous. As soon as he decided to go out and do the freaking laundry, here you can just see that shit rolling across. And there wasn't a damn thing pretty about it, FYI. There was nothing pretty about it because sand just gets everywhere. I don't know if you guys out, floating on the water really, had that same sort of issue with the sand. I would imagine you did. Fill me in.
Certainly did. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Spent more than one off watch washing the bloody uppers down to get the sand off the deck.
And now this is, I'm going to ask Shaun this. On your ship, the Australian ship, did y'all have chemical detectors, alarms?
Yes, sir, we sure did.
How many times did yours go off?
At least half a dozen.
It's amazing.
All of which apparently were false alarms. They even said
Of course.
one time that it was set off by the gunnery officer's cologne accidentally set it off.
Shut the front
somebody
door.
Feed
Smoking
of
a
bullshit.
cigarette?
Yeah. Someone was smoking something that night. Yeah.
Oh, they were smoking something good.
But yes, I mean, we had the whole, because they were all worried about chemical weapons and sarin and all the rest of the shit. So we had the chemical detectors and the MBCD suits and the, I forget the exact name, the shower spray that covers the whole ship in water.
Yeah.
We were popping naps tablets 8 times a day, all this sort of stuff. Yeah, so we were going through all the same stuff that you were.
See, when he's talking about them tablets, them are same things we popped. They call them P-tabs.
Okay.
Yeah, those were called NAPS, NAPS, but we found out later they were just repackaged in Australia, but they were exactly the same stuff you guys were taking.
Right, right. And if you ever go back and read them, it causes neuropathy.
Yes, one of the side effects. Did you also go through the injections?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had the factory injections, 56 injections in 3 days.
Jesus, keep rhyming that late.
Yeah, most of us couldn't lift their arms for about a week.
Ours were bad, but I can't say it was that. I mean, 56. Holy Christ.
Now, earlier when we were talking before we came on the air, I want you, because I know there's a couple of Navy guys probably going to be listening to this. And I was asking if y'all had a bar, which you told me no, but tell them how many beers that y'all were able to get. And let's kind of talk about that compared to U.S. Navy. I'm still pissed.
Well, the standard for a peacetime Navy, and I have to say this has changed nowadays with the woke Navy. You're not allowed to drink anymore. But back in the day, I'll just put on my anti-flash hood for telling war stories. It was 2 cans per man, per night, perhaps. So if it was approved by the skipper, the beer ration was issued about 1800 around dinner time, and you got your 2 cans. If someone had a birthday, most guys in the mess would give up their ration and he'd get absolutely smashed that night.
Wow.
But when we hit the Gulf, wartime sailing, beer rations were cut while at sea, and you could only drink in port, which was, we sort of understood that. Still didn't do well for morale. And the biggest stretch we did 76 days straight without hitting port. So we were a little bit thirsty at the end of that. And we had to be resupplied by air, by sea knights from one of your larger supply ships. We did the entire restock of the ship by air, 70 odd pallets of stores. We did that in an hour and a half. And I remember our buffer, who's the senior non-commissioned sailor on the ship, gray beard, bad attitude, you know the type.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He specifically requested a pallet of beer. And he got his beer because we heard it from the other end of the ship. This almighty cry of fucking root beer. And so the American Admiral on the Ranger was informed that we had a slight morale crisis on board. 'Cause our last meal before this was a can of Coke and a Mars bar. That's all the ship had left. So they sent us a morale package, which we had to laugh. It was the most American Navy morale package you've ever heard of. It was an ice cream machine and a Padre.
Oh, Jesus.
Are you serious?
I shit you not.
It is funny because everybody's like, you Navy guys eat so good. Well, there were days we didn't eat so good, especially if your ship would, break down. And then you were kind of happy half and half because you got to eat cold cuts. And so you were kind of like, all right, change something up besides rice. I hate freaking rice.
Now, are you bitching about a hot meal and you're talking about cold cuts? Do you know what you ever heard of an MRE?
Meals rejected by Ethiopians. They are worse than Australian Army ration packs, and that's fucking saying something, I'm telling you. We had some Australian MREs on board that were Vietnam War vintage.
Oh, so did
Oh,
we. So
and you
did
can
we.
still eat the bastards. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Bunghole cheese. It's the best stuff in the world, mate.
man.
What'd you just call it?
Bunghole cheese. It comes in a
Bunghole
can. You could make tennis balls out of it if you wanted to. But you eat that,
God.
you ain't hitting the heads for about 3 days.
And there's always one Lucky Strike cigarette and a piece of bubble gum and a little thing of Tabasco sauce. I like.
Tabasco sauce, yes, but we never got cigarettes.
Oh,
They
really?
weren't in our ration packs.
Wait, hold on. Cigarettes from what?
Well, this is from the Vietnam era.
Oh, I was gonna say I don't smoke, but I never saw no damn cigarette.
Yeah.
I would have probably smoked about anything if you'd have handed it to me, but
They were a thing. Australian rations, they always came separately. You'd get a tin of cigarettes. So like a big biscuit tin full of cigarettes, and you'd share that between 3 or 4 blokes. And that was your weekly ration. But of course, by the time we got the Vietnam War rations, the cigarettes were long gone.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
huh?
Now, on board your ship, did y'all have like a ship store?
So sure did, yes.
Okay, so you could buy your cigarettes and stuff on there.
We got our cigarettes duty free, so we were paying at the time $2 for a pack of cigarettes.
How much?
Just $2 Australian for a 30 pack of cigarettes.
Okay. Oh,
At the time,
shit, that's
duty
not-
free.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the same pack of cigarettes to buy from a store in Australia now will cost you $54
Jesus, criminally.
because it's bad to smoke, guys. You know,
yeah.
I
Bad
want
to
to
do a lot of things.
here we are sitting here full of injections and toxins and whatnot, going, yeah, smoking's real bad.
Yeah.
Yes, criminally.
You know what I find funny though is like when we would be out to sea and you would always get the new guys that would come on board, and you always knew they were new because they started turning this pale green.
I was gonna say because they're puking.
Oh yeah, man. You're just
Yes.
like, that guy's gonna be chumming the waters real soon.
I have to admit, the Brisbane was my very first posting straight out of recruit school, and straight to the Gulf. I was majorly excited. You know, back home in time for tea and medals and all that shit. You know, but the first week at sea, I thought I was going to die. I couldn't eat. I was literally laid on the bottom of a shower cubicle for 3 days, just retching my guts out.
Really?
And then after a week, it went away, and I never got seasick ever again. So,
Yeah.
thrown in the deep end.
I never got seasick. The only time I ever got sick, we were out at a club and we were drinking. And
That's a separate issue.
we got called. we were told don't drink Guam dry because I was stationed on Guam. So they would bring us back. They brought us back, and a whole bunch of boatsmates drunk, pulling in mooring lines were really funny. And so I stood first watch, and I was drunk. I was boatsmate to watch. Boy, that trash can was next to me when we hit that breakwater. Woo, man, we were going through 40-foot swells. I was like, oh. Lordy, no.
I think we've all been there at some
get in a
point.
canoe without puking. So
A canoe.
just saying.
I hate that the Australian government is not taking care of y'all. I do. I hate it.
Not as much as we do, but yes, I get
Well,
you.
yeah, I'm sure of that.
We're
But
sort of used to it, but see, it's funny for very many years afterwards, even when I knew something was going on, I wasn't really looking to get a payout or compensation or anything because I had the attitude that, you know, I volunteered. So whatever happened to me didn't matter because I'd volunteered for it. And a lot of the guys had that exact same attitude. I mean, it sounds all patriotic, hug the flag bullshit, but it's not. It's just, it's part of the Australian psyche. You don't complain about shit. You just deal and move on.
well, yeah.
So I think that's had a large part to play in why the movement in Australia isn't as big as it is in the States, is that we're very reluctant to put our hand up and go, I'm in trouble, I need help, because that's not a manly thing to do.
Now, I get that sentiment. I mean, I don't think the majority of us that have suffered due to our service connection, we will bitch to one another or complain to one another. But as anybody listening who's experienced the Gulf War illness, you get a little bit frustrated, or whatever terminology you want to put it as, trying to explain to people what's wrong with you. Because they can, a lot of people can see it on your face or see it in your body movement, know something ain't right. And they ask you and you just kind of blow it off. Because It's like, it was our choice. We volunteered to go in. Yeah, I'm sure there was, we weren't in a state of draft. And so you do get tired. We will bitch amongst one another about our own issues, but typically, I don't know, is it fair, Kevin? You're not going to go out and just bitch because you feel sorry for yourself. I don't think we do that.
No, I don't. I bitch at the fact that they just don't take care of the vets. That's my biggest thing. It really, truly, the way Vietnam was treated, and the way they're still being treated is just unbelievable to me. I don't quite understand it, but I think
disgusting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is disgusting. And I know that's how we're going to be treated when we get into our 70s. And so it's like, okay, we can either lay back and wait like they did, or we can learn from them and stand up for our rights and stand up for what's the right thing to do here. And then for kids, hell, if I had a kid coming in these days, I'd tell them to go in, in the Air Force, Coast Guard. I wouldn't tell them, these days, especially with everything going on in the world with Ukraine and everything, they're talking about bio labs and all this bull crap.
Yeah.
I do. I tell them, I'm like, I don't know if it would be worth telling one of your friends' kids or your own kid, hey, why don't you go in, serve your country? Because, it's not what you can do for your country, but it's what your country can do for you. That's a lie. That's a damn lie.
It is nowadays, yes.
Right, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't. If I was asked not that long ago, would I, if I had to do it all over again, would I do it? Yes, I would. But here's what I would do different, though. I would have started this podcast the first day podcast could have came out.
Well, you had mentioned, Kevin, what's going on in the world right now. And I don't think anybody with the television or anybody that can turn on a radio, you can't ignore what's going on over there right now. And you hear, the big, well, when I say big trigger words are for those of us who've served in the Gulf or been around, had these chemical exposures, those of us who know, I think, hopefully, aside from this being towards those of us who have served in that time frame and exposed to these things, the young men and women over there right now, if that bonehead over there decides to use gas, God forbid, but if he does, the people who survive, if somebody who watches this podcast or hears the information, they're like, well, I'm getting headaches all the time, or I'm doing that, and this happened.
Can you make me a coffee?
Don't drag your feet, because I don't know what our country's red line is at this point, but if that lunatic decides to use gas, game over. That's, and I don't, I contemplated whether to bring this up or not, but Kevin, you touched base with it, about what's going on in the world. You can't ignore it.
No, you can't.
That's what affects us. I don't know what our military's having we're not engaged at this point. Boots on the ground, so to speak.
Yeah, but I will guarantee you the United States Navy's out there. You got Australian Navy, Europe. You got all NATO forces around there. And so you just don't know what people are going to do these days. These world leaders, and that's one thing that pisses me off. And Shaun, agree with me on this, or tell me if I'm wrong. Why in the hell is it that the civilians get hurt, but the leaders don't? That pisses me off.
Yep. Mate, that's a story as old as time, isn't it?
It is.
Politicians start the wars, but it's fought by the poor.
Yes.
And you can go back to Rome and read treaties written by Roman historians complaining about the exact same shit.
Right. And then when they come back home the politicians that we fight the wars for treat us like, oh no, that wasn't out there. But even though in 1995 they had it written down, yeah, we've been following 670,000 Gulf War vets from the United States that are going to either have neurological problems or Parkinson's, and it's on the freaking website, on our VA's website. That's the part that gets my goat right there. Is okay, we have these problems, but is it what the Gulf caused? Well, sure, where in the hell wasn't my dad beat my ass when I was 12 years old?
It's exactly right. Exactly right.
Well,
in Australia, they basically said it's a war. Bad things happen in a war, just in case you didn't know. If it's a really big war, someone might even die. So anyone coming back is going to have PTSD. Any issues must be PTSD related, and you can get free counseling. There you go. Wash your hands, all done.
Yeah, and those millions and billions with a B that are being tossed around like, it's just a printing press that never stops, which is essentially what it is. When it comes time for those men and women who need help that have served in the armed forces, good luck.
Yep. I hope you're trusting God, because He's the only one who's looking out for you. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, so I tell somebody to go in now, I tell them, look, if y'all want to go in, you want to serve your country, y'all want to do this, y'all want to do that, keep every documentation of everything, where you've been, what you've done, and anytime you went to medical, make a copy of it. Yeah,
100%. That's perfect information, Kevin. That's absolutely right. Even the couple young men that I've who I know who've recently gone into the military, I told them both. I said, just what you're saying, Kev. Keep every document. If they need the original for a copy or whatever, that do not give that up. They're going to say, well, we have to have it. Get it back. Get something back. If you don't, and especially if it's any pertinent medical information, you're screwed. You are just screwed.
Right. I mean, like Shaun is sitting there when he was saying that he had Century Poly's, the stuff going on with you, but they trace it back to PTSD. It's like, that has nothing to do with PTSD. That's your nervous system. And that's the thing that gets me is we all fought. You there, Shaun?
Yeah, sorry, I lost your comms for a second there.
Oh no. What I was saying was, with you having the polycentric problems going on, and then they relate it to PTSD. Oh, that's neurological.
Yeah. But no, it's just PTSD. It's all in my head.
Right. But if you go back and you look at anybody who has century poly, anything wrong with them with century poly, most of it is either immune deficiency or chemicals or lack of like B12. And that's the thing that gets me. Is like, how can y'all relate that to PTSD?
Exactly. It makes no sense. But just for laughs, I went, after hearing that for like the 15th time over 10 years, I went, right, fuck yous. I'll put in a claim for PTSD. Denied.
What?
I don't have PTSD. I said, but this, that. Oh no, that's a separate thing. It makes no sense, no logic. And you very soon get the idea that they're giving you the runarounds.
Yeah. And I think for the men and women that listen to this, Shaun, like you were saying, your occurrences were much like mine, as in a slow burn. I've phrased it before, because it just and like you explained, Shaun, earlier, and Kevin, it affects us all differently, because we're all different, men or women. And hopefully somebody out there will hear this or is listening and say, well, this is going on. Maybe I can put two and two together. If you're in a Gulf War, or God forbid they decide to use chemicals in the current war that's at hand, know that you understand that it's not just you. It's not just in your head. It's inside your body, and you have no control over it.
Oh yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right. There's no way you're alone. Everyone who went there's got something wrong.
Oh, yes. Yes. Thank you. I mean, Shaun, you said it right there, man. I haven't met one person that went to the Gulf that doesn't have some kind of issue that we all have together. That's
Yeah,
one thing I find very fascinating. That's not coincidence. That's, it's not sure luck or coincidence. It's fact.
That's right. Yep. And it's not till you get together with guys you serve with or other people like you gentlemen who were there that you realize that you're not alone. It's not just you. You're not some freak. Everyone's hurting. And it all traces back to the one thing. And no amount of bullshit excuses from government is going to convince me anymore that it's in my head. I mean, they had me convinced for a while that I was screwed up mentally. But I'm as sane as the next man. There's nothing wrong with me. I don't have nightmares about the golf or, missing out on the beer ration or anything, This is all physical.
I'm going to have
it's getting worse.
I'm going to have nightmares on the beer rationing now. But no, I mean, on a serious note, you're right. I mean, I don't have nightmares of the Gulf War. I don't, none of that stuff. My nightmares are like, shit, am I going to be able to walk in the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I know, and I'm right with you on that, Kevin, and Shaun, like you said, this just creeps up on my back problems. I've kind of had some issues, but now I remember, it's been well over a year ago. I went to the ER, and I live in small town Iowa, and I had only driven to a small town roughly 20 minutes from where I currently live. And, sometimes, we understand how small of a world we live in, because I had encountered two separate doctors who were in the Gulf War. And they say, John, I don't know how to tell you this, but your back is all fucked up. I didn't go in there for my back. I mean, I did and I didn't. It was on the outskirts, but then they showed me the x-ray, and you don't really know what you're looking at other than, okay, I've seen a lot of spine pictures in my life, but that don't look right. You're like, holy shit, and now whatever is in my body is like we've discussed. It's just, not obviously not all of us, but now my back for no apparent reason is just really starting to hurt a whole lot more than it did a couple of months ago. And I'm like, like you said, Kevin, I'm worried about, am I going to be able to wake up and walk one day? And that's scary as shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like my wife's like, she wants to one day take the granddaughter to Disney World. Shit. No. I mean, number one, I really don't want to go see Mickey Mouse anyway, but I sure in the hell don't want to walk that crap. My feet couldn't handle it. But
you're lying, ass. I know you want to see Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck.
Maybe the princesses, but but I mean, my thing is, I mean, the stuff that, I mean, shit, 50 years old is not old.
Nope.
But I literally watched a doctor on TV saying the Gulf War veterans are aging much faster than any other service time veteran ever, and dying faster than any of the other veterans.
Well, to put that in perspective from my side, our ship's crew was 336 men at full capacity. Since we've returned from the Gulf, almost 50 are dead.
Wow.
Now, some of them are from the usual stuff. I had a mate who died in a helicopter accident. A couple died in car crashes. One got cancer, et cetera, et cetera. Most of them are from suicide because of ongoing medical conditions that they can't deal with and can't get help with. So they decide to take the big check out.
Yeah, see, that's horrible. See, that pisses me off more than anything, is that's the worst thing that anybody could do to a veteran, is let them take their lives for something that can be fixed.
it could be fixed, or at least it could be, if you have a disorder, and again, I'm not going to go through what I got, but life's quite difficult at times.
Yeah.
And if you're not getting any help, it makes it worse. And then specifically for some of these poor guys to have DVA turn around and say, there's nothing wrong with you, we're not going to help you, you're never going to get a cent. It's shattering. People lose their families, their houses, and they just end it.
Yeah. And oh man, Shaun, you nailed it right there, because most people don't realize a lot of veterans that are married lose their spouses and their kids over something the spouses don't understand.
Yeah, I think that's like we touched base on that a little bit. Amongst ourselves, we can talk about it, but it's not that if you weren't there, if you weren't in it, if you weren't wearing a uniform, not to say that our spouses don't understand, they empathize. But if you weren't there, if you weren't in theater experiencing, you don't know. You simply don't know. And I don't blame them for that.
No,
it's no fault of theirs.
You can't explain it properly unless you were there. You just can't.
Right.
I mean, even a fellow serviceman who wasn't there can understand to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very true.
But they don't always get it.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like Shaun was mentioned earlier, I mean, the men and women that are currently very likely to be put in harm's way over in what's going on in help me out with the country name.
Ukraine.
Yeah, thank you. In the Ukraine, these men and women, I don't think it's a matter if at this point. I think it's a matter of when. And that's really sad, but and we're on day 20 or something like that. And these men and women
lost everything.
You watch lives disappear before your eyes or see these nasty things of war. You can't undo that. You see it, your experience, you can't, it's always there. And it's forever in your soul, and it can't be removed.
Yeah, it's one thing to watch it on TV. It's another thing to be there when it's happening.
Right.
I'm sure you know.
And I think that triggers a lot of vets too that have PTSD is they see it on TV, but it's like they're reliving it all over again.
Yeah.
And I just tell them, look, turn off TV, stop watching it. Don't look at that kind of stuff. I try my hardest, but working in a barbershop, I was having the news on, but I try to take my focus away from what's going on over there right now. Even though it's hard, I try to take my focus away from it.
Yes.
Do you find that easy to do, Shaun, Kevin? Can you guys pull yourselves away from what's going on there?
I haven't watched free-to-air TV in about 6 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's easy for me now.
It's so much bullshit and propaganda. It's just, it's not even believable anymore. I mean, the whole thing in Ukraine, whether you think Putin's a monster or you don't think he's a monster, whatever, one thing I'm sure of is that we're only getting one side of the story. So I'm not trying to defend Putin at all, but we're only getting one side of the story, and most of it is just bullshit. It's just flat out propaganda. I mean, do you remember the Gulf War? Before they actually kicked off, we had all these stories on TV about, the Iraqi soldiers came into the hospital and they tipped the babies out of their cribs and stole all the equipment, and all these babies died. And everyone, and I myself and everyone around me was outraged. And then it turns out after the war, it was all bullshit. It was all just made up.
Yeah, the media propaganda doesn't tell the truth.
No, they're pushing an agenda, mate. And they're still pushing an agenda to this day. I mean, I don't really want to get into all that guff, but so I stopped listening to the mainstream media a long time ago.
Well, so the reason I ask you two gentlemen about that is because my wife, when I was in the Gulf, of course, she's here stateside. I was in Germany, but she had come stateside. She was pregnant with our first child, and she was stateside. So she's watching it, trying to get information, as is, and so she finds herself watching and can't pull herself away. So our television's on the majority of the day. I mean, she's a busy person, but she wants that readily available to see what's changed throughout the day. And I find it a little bit difficult. Like you said, a lot of it's just, oh, what can we, I mean, a lot of it, you watch news for an hour and it doesn't take long before they start just repeating the last grimacing thing that was shown, you know, because it's for viewership. And you're like, okay, like you said, Shaun, it's a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
So that was the reason I asked, because I mean, my wife wants to watch it, and I get a different perspective because, oh, this is what you're going through when I was over there. Granted, I don't know of anybody personally in theater right now, but you know.
Now here's a crazy thing for you is we literally, whenever we declared war, we never knew we declared war during Desert Storm. The only thing I remember, I'm telling you, it was like midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, all the missile hatches started opening up. All of a sudden, the Independence starts, start taking off airplanes, and the Ranger taking off airplanes. You're just like, what the hell? And all of a sudden,
you weren't told?
No, none of us were told.
No, not one of us.
Not one person. When we were out there, it was just all of a sudden, it was like, oh shit, we must be at war.
Oh hell, I knew. They told us. Of course, we're on land, so maybe it's different when you're out at sea. But we were told, okay, we're going here in half an hour or less, and we were outside, and we could hear the airplanes. Of course, in the middle of the night, so you can't see anything, but you could see the red lights. Red lights go out. And then all of a sudden the MLRS on the ground start shooting off, and it was like, all hell, everything, shit hit the fan. So we knew. I guess I'm a little surprised you guys didn't know. Man,
I'll tell you, one of the scariest moments we've ever had that I was in is we were coming up, and it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and the USS Missouri, and that's one hell of a battleship, and they're off of our starboard side. And we're going, we're traveling down. Then all of a sudden, we see them signaling to us. And we're just like, I wonder what the signalmen are saying. Well, shit, they were declaring war on us. And they were about to blow our ship out of the water because we had one white light down below decks on. Because when you're out there, you have no lights on. It's red light or nothing. And I mean... And our signalman fell asleep.
No shit.
Oh man,
that was the first Gulf War syndrome, falling asleep on watch.
Dude, boy, let me tell you something. I remember picking up the 1MC, and the captain saying, "I don't care how loud you gotta say it, but you tell the Missouri we're a United States Navy warship." I don't care what anybody says. After it was done with, I was like, somebody needs to clean out my underwear. Because it scared the shit out of me.
I got a funny story for you. The scaredest I've ever been in my life was that night. We were on point for the Ranger. So we're a couple of miles ahead of the battle group. And we're basically there to watch out for incoming Exocet missiles and stuff, i.e. like the Falklands War, the ship's worst enemy. And we were warned that something might be happening tonight. But I was off watching my bunk, and all of a sudden, the action alarms go off. So, Australian Navy fleet standard at the time was 3 minutes to close up action stations. We did it in 1 minute 30 seconds because this is completely unplanned. And the reason for it was action alarms went off. Okay, here we go again. Rolled out of the bunk, slapped me boots on because you sleep fully dressed in case the shit happens. And the next call was vampire, 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 which is the war room saying incoming missiles. No shit, war shots inbound, pucker up. And the reason we closed up so quick was vampire, 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 100 plus.
Oof.
There's 100 missiles inbound. No shit.
Holy crap.
Now, luckily, it turned out they were missiles fired by the United States Navy at land targets, but they were using our ship as a reference point, and they forgot to tell us.
Oh, hell no. God. I would have shit.
Jeez.
There were brown stains everywhere. I'm telling you, you've never seen people run so fast. And the wires were blue for a couple of hours after that.
Now,
Uh,
see what John doesn't understand is almost every day, you would always every day do some kind of general quarters, a drill every day. And you
Yes.
would sit there in your head going, why in the hell are we doing all these stupid ass general quarters? Let me tell you, when that shit goes down, you know exactly what to do.
When it's for real and you've done it for real, you'd never question it ever again. Nope.
Never again.
We broke the fleet record for closing up their action stations. It was unbelievable.
No, see, I mean, I know I do actually, Kevin. I do know what it's like because, we did, even though we're Army people, we did do a lot of repetitive stuff, like putting on a protective mask, it just becomes second nature. You don't think, you just do.
Yeah.
So no, I wasn't on a ship, so I don't know anything about it. And, you say starboard or this, I don't know what freaking end of the side. I don't know what the hell that means other than it's some part of the ship. I don't know shit about it,
The starboard is the right side. The port is the left side.
Okay.
So and you know how to remember that? It's an easy way to remember it.
Aft is back and forward is forward.
There's a very easy way to remember port and starboard for landlubbers. Port is red, starboard is green.
Right.
And you can remember it because port is an alcohol that's colored red. So as long as you drink, you'll remember what port is, and then you'll automatically work out what starboard is.
Oh, son of a gun. I never even thought about it like that.
It's all about alcohol.
Man.
It's all about alcohol.
Yeah. See, that's why you got to talk to another country's Navy to get all the alcohol. But the one thing that I will say that I found interesting is it was a NATO mission, but how well we all work together. Like our ship, when we unrepped the Brits, when we unrepped Australia and stuff like that, all of our equipment worked with their equipment. I did find that very fascinating.
Interchangeable, huh?
Yeah.
Yes, and done deliberately so, from our part at least. Like the United States Navy is much bigger than Australia's Navy. We're a relatively small Navy, but we pride ourselves on being professional and using not always the best equipment, but getting the best out of the equipment we've got. So we exercise with the USN all the time, even to this day. And the Brisbane I was on was an American Charles F. Adams class destroyer, modified to suit us.
Oh, that's cool.
And all the equipment on board was deliberately purchased and utilized to be swappable or easy of use with the American Navy. Even the Brisbane 3, the new ship that's replaced the one I was on, it now has an Aegis system and computer networks that automatically hook into the American combat systems. So it's like we're part of your fleet. It's all designed so we can work better together. And we do work very, very well together.
Wow. Wow. That is really cool to know that.
Like the Brisbane at the time, I mean, this is 1991, we had CWIS. It's the first time any Australian ship ever had CWIS. We had two of the buggers, actually.
Oh, okay. What the hell is that?
Yeah.
Anti-missile system, close-in weapons system, fires 3,000 rounds a minute, shoots missiles and planes out of the sky out to about 3,000 meters.
Oh.
So when a missile's coming in, that's your last line of defense.
All right.
Actually, the last line of defense would be me swinging off a 50 cal, but that's another thing. That's got no hope in hell of stopping anything. Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, on my ship, the only thing we had were these 3-inch guns and 50 cals. My ass was jumping overboard, trusting that the snakes and the sharks were going to eat my ass with the gunner's mates we had.
And were there some bloody snakes over there in the ocean, mate? Sea snakes everywhere.
Yeah, there were sea snakes everywhere.
I always said I'd go down with the ship because I don't like bloody snakes,
Yeah, I was like,
enough of them back home. Yeah.
And there was a guy, I remember unrepping the USS Ranger out there, and we literally watched the guy on the flight deck. I mean, John, you got to imagine the flight deck is, I don't know how many stories up, but it's a long way. He jumps in the middle of the ship's unrepping off the side of the ship. And he told them, our helicopter picked him up, our helo, and literally told them, the wind blew me off. Oh, the wind didn't blow your ass off. I saw you take one foot and jump off the side. It's like
the wind blew me off.
Yeah.
Screw that.
Oh my God.
I was like, I don't care how much wind there is. Ain't no wind gonna knock me off in those shark snake infested ass waters. I'm telling you right
Mental
now.
health check for that man. Yes.
How many beers did he have?
Apparently not enough.
Oh my God.
And so, you know, we're getting close to the end of the program, but I do want to talk about, I pulled into Darwin. I've been to Sydney and Perth. Darwin, I really like Darwin, except for your Greenpeace canoe kayaking idiots there that are y'all nuclear.
Every country has them.
Yeah. And we pulled in, the captain's like, just run them over. And so
Just run them over.
but the
Damn
one,
straight.
but when we pulled into Perth, it was Perth. No, it was Sydney. When we pulled into Sydney, the guys were trying to explain to me about how Americans are really liked by Australian women.
It's the accent, mate.
Well, it's the
Accent.
That's
Everyone
all.
likes something different. When we go to America, it's the exact opposite.
Well, I can tell you right now, ain't no woman can resist a Texas accent.
Oh my God.
Yes, sir.
It sounded good at least, right?
Jesus Christ.
So no, I kid you not. When we pulled into this port, there was this yacht full of women, and that were selling next to us, topless. It was like, what the hell? About 50
Welcome
of
to
them.
Sydney. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was about 7 beers prior to, or what?
No, this was us while we were pulling in. And then we had this board up that it was called Dial a Sailor. So you had your last 4 of your Social Security, and then you would take your white hat off. And if you liked a girl or she liked you on the pier, you throw your white hat down there, and they would come up, and then they would take you out on a date.
Seriously?
I'm serious.
Yep.
Damnedest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
It reminds me of a
Alright.
funny story when I came home from the Gulf. I flew home on leave eventually. We have a similar thing with, if you're with a lady, you put your lid, as we call it, on her head, telling everyone else around that she's mine, don't touch. I got to the airport and all the rellies were there. So all my sisters, my aunties, you can imagine. And they're passing my hat around, all trying my hat on. And there's these 6 army guys over in the corner looking over going, what the fucking hell?
But I mean, but what amazed me is how nice the people of Australia was. To me, they were the nicest of any ports I've ever hit. Everything. And Bali was my favorite port, but Australia was awesome, and how everybody treated us there. And so I thought it was really cool. I was like, I had to tell that story because, man, you don't get to tell that story very often. Everybody go, really? You know?
They don't believe it. But yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it is. It's very true.
Look, America and Americans, apart from the invasive American culture and Hollywood, they've always been very welcome in Australia. And that goes back a long way, all the way to World War I, when we taught your doughboys how to fight in the trenches. And then we served together in World War II, and you came and saved our ass from the Japs. And every time America's called since then, we've been there, whether it's Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf, Iraq, Afghanistan. We have a very long history of fighting together, and Australians respect that immensely.
Right. And heck, we respect y'all for being out there with us. But
Yeah, I tell you what, when I didn't have a lot of interaction with much. But I vaguely remember the Brits and the French and the Aussies. You know, these guys were all, you know. Here again, I'm talking about the engineers. We were going by a bunch of tanks, but still, I don't never understood that. But they all, you know, in the times that we paused, everybody got along great, and you know, that's always fun because the other nations, hey, how's everybody doing? Well, we're scared shitless, but we're doing all right.
yeah, I mean, that's one thing about the camaraderie was there. It seemed like everybody from different countries, we all got along and we all had. The only thing that drove me nuts about pulling in is when the first time I pulled in, I think it was Jabal Ali, and I had to stand watch, and they blared over the loudspeakers the music out there. Not music, but their song or prayer. And you want to talk about scared the ever living shit out of you?
You're talking about the prayer time when you were in port at
in port. And I mean, but they would blare it on. I mean, they had loudspeakers, I think, on every street corner. I mean, you could probably.
They had loudspeakers everywhere because we heard that shit. I mean, everything stopped because everybody had to go pray.
And it was like, "Hiya!" And I'm like, "What the hell? Or am I about to get shot, man? I'm gonna die."
Welcome to not America. Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh. But I did find it fascinating how well they respected Americans and stuff there. But I also liked how their buildings were. It was pretty cool. And the roundabouts. Everywhere you drove, they had roundabouts.
It's a fascinating place, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I've
always wanted to go back and visit. Like the Dubai I know is nothing like the Dubai of today.
Oh, yes. Don't you know? I'm going to go back, and I wish if I'd known then what I know now, I'd have went to the Gold Souk.
Yes, the Gold Souk was awesome.
Oh, man. I would have bought so much gold there because everything was, well, yeah.
Speaking about camaraderie between countries, I always had it explained to me by the chief in charge of me, actually. He called it a bar fight. It's the bar fight principle.
Yeah.
The Army, the Navy, the Air Force, put them in a bar, they'll always fight each other. It's the first thing they look for. Oh, you're Air Force, I'm going to punch you in the head, get drunk and have a fight. And it's all rivalry until someone outside of that clique has a go at one of them. And then they all go shoulder to shoulder and go, come on.
Yeah, that's really true. Like where when I was in my home port of Guam, the Marines, the amphibious task force would pull in there. Our captain would be like, none of y'all are going to be going to Macombo's on base because that's where all the Marines are going to go. And I happen to stay in shore patrol, and you talk about the guys that beat the ever living shit out of each other were Marines. And I'm like, oh my God. And this guy's like, you going to break it up? I'm like, I'm not getting my ass whooped. I'm like, when they tire out, we'll take them away.
Exactly my point. The first run ashore we had was in Oman. And you can only drink in a couple of places. There was a couple of hotels designated you could drink, and the American Embassy recreation place, which was just a house.
Yeah.
So we all hit the rec space, the American Embassy rec space, and all they had to drink was Budweiser Light.
Yeah.
But they knew we were coming, so they got in 40 cases. And we'd never had Budweiser before. So needless to say, in 4 hours, we drank the entire embassy dry. Australians are not so good at drinking spirits, but we are champions at beer. So we drank the whole place dry, and then some Marines came in. And you could tell they're Marines because, tall, fit, short haircuts, lightning bolts carved in the side of their head, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So within 30 seconds, there was a fight on. And me being the youngest, I was 18 at the time, I got chosen to pick the fight. So I remember there was this large black gentleman at the bar. He must have been 8 foot. It's a basketball player.
Yeah.
So I went up and tapped him on the back of the knee. And I said, hey, Leroy. And he turns around and goes, how you know my name is Leroy, boy? And once I worked out what he said, I was like, well, how the fuck can I start a fight with him now? I said, I'll buy you a drink, mate. Yeah, okay. We got on fabulously until the Brits came in. And then all of us turned around and went, fucking British. And we had a punch up with the Brits. And that lasted until the Dutch came in. And then all three of us got together and we were, Brits aren't so bad. The Yanks are okay. Let's hammer these Dutch bastards. And that was the philosophy of the Australian Navy with international relations. You punch the shit out of them until someone else comes along.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we do it.
Yeah.
We hit, the Navy and Marines fight, then the Army comes in. We beat up on the Army. Then the Air Force comes in and everybody gets on the Air Force. And then
you all join forces against the Coast Guard. Yeah.
That's right.
That's exactly it.
And now we got Space Force.
Oh.
I mean, could you imagine
being in the Space Force? Yeah.
Being in the Space Force, walking into a bar?
All of a All of a sudden, the Coast Guard's a lot more acceptable, eh?
Oh shit, you know it.
Yeah, my brother was in the Coast Guard. He'd probably agree. I hear the Space Force now, and who came up with that genius title? And they say, well, you talk about the Air Force, they fly in the air. Well, flip. Okay, I guess if you're going to phrase it like that, but really, when you think of Space Force, you think of something like Atari game or something.
Right. But
It just doesn't have any kind of zing to it.
It's got no gravitas to it. Yeah, it sort of sounds ridiculous until
it's the fucking Jetsons.
You stop and think, go back 100 years when they first had the Air Force.
Right.
It probably sounded just as stupid back then.
Well, I mean, if you really think about it, all of us are stupid because there ain't no way none of us could pass that Space Force ASVAB.
That's true.
I'm just letting everybody know right now. I would
don't say it so loud.
Yeah. It's true. It's just true. But I mean,
you would have to be some kind of, yeah. Now that you say that, Kevin, oh my God, yeah, Space. Okay, so Shaun, did y'all come up with something new like the Space Force yet?
No, we just made it part of the Air Force.
Oh,
we're lazy.
Okay, that's pretty.
We don't even have a Coast Guard. I mean, we do, but that's under the police. It's got nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you want to know an interesting fact, there are more lieutenants in your Coast Guard than there are people in our Navy.
Shut the front door.
Yeah, and on average, well, going back when I was in service, at least on average, Coast Guard ships had more weaponry than ours.
Damn.
That's
crazy.
Changed a little bit these days, but yeah, that gives you an idea of how small the Australian Navy is.
Yeah. Hey, but y'all are always there with us, side by side.
That's what it's all about.
Well,
yeah,
Shaun.
Amen to that.
Shaun and John. Oh, that rhymed like a dime. I want to thank, my co-host John and Shaun from Australian Navy. I want to thank you so much for coming on the program. And, spread the word there. There are guys over here in the United States who are lending a voice. So if your guys need help or they want to talk, they want to be able to, tell them every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Well, okay, 10 a.m. Wednesday, your time would be 7 o'clock p.m. Tuesday night, my time. Yeah, okay. That we go live on Facebook. I go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time, Texas time. And also, if they want to see about other places and other veterans, we have a YouTube channel. It's called Gulf War Side Effects. Tell them to get on there and start watching it, and they can learn, and maybe they can get help by listening to what we have and what we can help them with.
I agree. Certainly spread the word. And technical problems aside, it's been an absolute pleasure, guys.
It has been.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, Shaun. Thanks for coming on.
It has an absolute pleasure. And for everybody out there, the Facebook page and everything will be here next week. We're going to have a group session, which I'll have to tell John about that later. We're going to have a group session with Sarah and a whole bunch of us and have a counselor so people can come in and talk about issues that they're having, and maybe we can help them out. But if anybody wants to contact us at Kevin Simon at GulfWarSideEffects.com, you can email me. Tell me your story. If you need help, any veteran out there that needs help, do not hesitate to get a hold of us, and we'll be willing to help you and do whatever we can for you. Shaun and John, guys, it's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
Y'all have a
good one, Kev.
Y'all have a great night.
Yep. Take care, guys.
All right. Thank you. Y'all please go to my website at GulfWarSideEffects.wordpress.com or email me at kevinsimon@GulfWarSideEffects.com. And please help support this podcast and the veterans by clicking on the link below. Thank you for your support.